probably good since we have a lot to try to cover. So we are picking up with the breaking of the fellowship, which is the last chapter of the second book of the first volume, okay, of the Fellowship of the Ring. We finished with, we didn't discuss the Great River and leaving Lori and all that kind of stuff. We did discuss the gifts that Galadriel and the others gave them. So the breaking of the fellowship. They get on the river, they go down the river, and they arrive at pretty much the last place they can stop before they've got to make a decision as to whether or not they head east and go to Mordor or head south and go on to Gondor. And Frodo says, I need time. Page 396 and following. Okay? Aragorn kind of just bluntly says, all right, Frodo, what do you want to do? The burden is on you. You decide. And Frodo's like, I need time. Give me some time. Let me be alone. So he goes off alone. And they're okay with that. They know there aren't any orcs right there immediately. I mean, he can pull Sting out and it's not glowing blue or anything. So he goes off. Aragorn says, don't stray far. So as long as we can hear you, you can hear us. Kind of a thing. So Frodo goes off. And after a few minutes, Boromir comes up to him. Page 397 and following. And Boromir says, I don't think any of us should really be alone here. You're little, I'm big. I'll walk with you. So they go on and walk, and Boromir's, maybe we could use the ring, top of 398. He said, can I even talk about it? Frodo's like, you were at the council. We can't use it. What is done with it turns to evil. And Boromir has a long speech, paragraph, and where he just kind of lays his cards out. It's the first time, yeah, pretty much, except for in the Council of Elrond, it's the first time that Boromir is totally open. Okay? And we know he's totally open because what he says at the end of that speech. Talks about this could be great, it could help us defeat Sauron, etc. What could not a warrior do in this hour, a great leader? What could not Aragorn? Notice he points to Aragorn first. What could Aragorn not do? Or if he refuses, well, why not Boromir? Why doesn't he say, why not me?
Because the ring's talking.
Okay, is it because the ring's talking? Because he does refer to himself in third person. The ring would give me power of command. And notice Tolkien capitalizes command. Now this is speech. How do you capitalize something in speech? Do you yell it? So how do you, it's speech. How does he say it, more forcefully? How I would drive the hosts of Mordor and all men would flock to my banner. Well, there's a lot of I's and me's and my's in those last two sentences. Striding up and down, speaking ever more loudly. Frodo, kind of sitting there going, okay. He says it's folly. Boromir tells him, you need some rest, blah, 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 blah. And then Boromir says, 399. Why are you so unfriendly? Because it's, Frodo's backing away from him. Why are you so friendly? I am a true man, neither thief nor tracker. I need your ring. You know that now. But I give you my word, I do not desire to keep it. Notice, he doesn't say, I do not desire to take it. I'm just not going to keep it. I am going to take it from you, but I'll give it back when I'm done, when everybody flocks to my banner. Will you not at least let me make trial of my plan? Lend me the ring. Frodo says, no. When Gandalf asks for the ring from Frodo in Frodo's home, he says, let me have it for a moment. Okay? But he realizes you can't have it for just a moment because it starts to work on you. So, Boromir says, come on, I'm too strong for you. You can't stop me. And Frodo dodges him and puts the ring on. And as soon as he puts the ring on and gets out of Boromir's range, okay, because you put the ring on, it makes you invisible. It doesn't mean if you step on a twig, the twig doesn't go snap. Okay? Boromir immediately realizes, top of 400, what have I done? What have I said? Come back, a madness took me, but it has passed. Come back. Because Frodo's running off. He doesn't know where. So Frodo runs off, and he reaches the top of the hill that's on this island, essentially. And there's a big carved seat sitting on it, carved out of stone. And so he scrambles up onto it, and he looks all around. He doesn't know what that seat is. Our narrator tells us what the seat is. Okay. He was sitting upon the seat of seeing on Amon Hen, the hill of the Eye of the Men of Númenor. This thing was made by the men of Númenor thousands of years ago. It's the hill of seeing. That is, you sit on the seat, and it's kind of like, your vision gets adjusted, so you can see better. Plus, he can see better. Why? Or at least he can see things he wouldn't otherwise see. Why? He's got the ring on. Okay? So he looks northward. And what's he see? He sees the great river, like a ribbon. He sees the misty mountains, small, hard as broken teeth. Westward he looks. He sees the broad pastures of Rohan. He sees Orthanc. He sees the pinnacle of Isengard like a black spike. He looks southward. He sees how the river falls over the falls of Rauros, etc. Okay. Notice he doesn't look eastward yet. So he looks in all these directions, and what's he see? In all three directions, signs of war. Misty mountains were crawling like ant hills. Okay. Those are several hundred miles away. He sees the orcs pouring out of their caves. Under Mirkwood, he sees strife of elves and men and fell beasts. He sees the land of the Beornings, aflame. He sees a cloud over Moria, smoke rising on the borders of Lorien. Okay? Horsemen galloping. Far, far away, it seemed, and beautiful, top of page 401, he sees Minas Tirith, beautiful, white-walled, many-towered, proud and fair upon its mountain seat, battlements glitter with steel, turrets bright with many banners. Hope leaped in his heart. Why? Look at the description of Minas Tirith again. Many-towered, proud and fair, battlements glittering with steel. It looks what?
Like safe.
Safe, impenetrable. This thing will never fall. Okay? He keeps looking. It goes beyond Minas Tirith. And now he sees the grinning gates of Minas Morgul and the haunted mountains. And it looks upon Gorgoroth, the valley of terror in the land of Mordor. He keeps looking, and his eye seemingly is drawn until he sees Barad-dûr, fortress of Sauron. All hope left him. Two towers. Minas Tirith, hope. Barad-dûr, despair. Are those the two towers of the next title? Or are the two towers of the next title the Tower of Orthanc in Barad-dûr, or the Tower of Orthanc in Minas Tirith? I don't think in his letters Tolkien ever clarifies. Memory serves, I'm about 98% sure of that. Okay? So, he sees Sauron's eye. There's an eye in the Dark Tower. It doesn't sleep, doesn't have an eyelid, etc. And what happens? As soon as he sees Sauron, it sounds like, what? Ding, ding. A bell rings. He knew it had become aware of his gaze. And what happens? So, Frodo's sitting up here on this seat. He looks, like this eastward. He looks eastward. He's got the tower, and on the tower, is the eye. And what happens? He suddenly perceives, it does this, it does this, What's it doing? It's getting closer and closer and closer. He knew very soon it would nail him down, know exactly where he was. Amon Law it touched, that is, the other hill nearby. It glanced upon Tall Brander, and he jumps down from the seat. And he hears himself crying out. Never, never. Wait. Or was it, verily I come to you. Those are two pretty different things, right? Those are hard to mix up. Never, never, verily, verily I come to you. He could not tell. He couldn't tell which one of these he's saying. Then, as a flash from some other point of power, there comes another voice. There came to his mind another thought. Take it off. Take it off. What's the next word? Who's the only person in the book to use that word? Take off the ring. The two powers strove in him. For a moment, perfectly balanced between their piercing points. He writhed, tormented. Suddenly he was aware of himself again. So when this turmoil is going on, and when he's seeing all this stuff, it's like he's not aware of himself. Now he is. And when he cries out, never, never, verily, verily, I come to take it to you, he's not aware of himself. When he is aware of himself, Frodo, neither the voice nor the eye, free to choose, and with one remaining instant in which to do, he takes the ring off his finger. Okay? Why does Tolkien give us that image? What's the purpose of that image?
Isn't it, at least to me, comparing a change into a Gollum-like creature because of the two voices?
Okay. Wow. I've never heard anybody say that before. That's pretty interesting. So is this Frodo's psyche being or reflecting the split that's occurring? Because that's what happens with Gollum. Gollum is your classic definition, split personality disorder. He's Gollum one moment, he's Neogall another moment, okay? Could be. What else?
Was it less than a page earlier? Boromir came back to himself.
Exactly. Boromir comes back to himself when? When the ring is removed from his presence. Ring gets away from him. It's like, whoa, what was that? The temptation is gone. Okay? But Frodo comes to himself before he removes the ring. He's still under the power of the ring in terms of its invisibility. And he remembers himself and pulls it off. Okay? So he's kneeling. There's sunlight. Shadow passes over him. And what conclusion does he arrive to? What must he do?
Go alone.
Go alone. Why?
To save everyone else.
Save everyone else. Because if Boromir is going to fall under its spell, Frodo thinks everybody else will also. Okay? What does he not count on? Doing?
Showing up.
Thinking the same way that Frodo would think. Okay? So Boromir goes back. He kind of says, I went after Frodo. And Aragorn's like, we'll talk about this later, And Merry and Pippin run off one direction. Aragorn runs off after Frodo. Sam runs off after him, realizes, I can't keep up with him. What would Frodo do? He's going to ditch us. He jumps in the water, and they leave. Okay? Now, in terms of original publication, now we have to wait several months before the Two Towers. So we finish this book, and talk about your cliffhanger. Okay? And now you have to wait to figure out what's going to happen. What's going to happen to Frodo and Sam? What's going to happen to... the title of that chapter was what? Breaking of the Fellowship. So, we have Frodo and Sam to Mordor. Then we have Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, Boromir, Merry, and Pippin still. And we finish not knowing what's going on with them. We pick up with the Two Towers, book 3, first book of Two Towers. And what are we told? Just look at the title, The Departure of Boromir. Now, that can mean what? He leaves. Departure doesn't mean death usually. You don't say, Well,
they say we've lost them.
Okay, that's losing. You hear phrasing to the dear departed or our dearly departed. Okay, but you don't usually hear somebody's dying as being referred to as a departure. It's they've passed on, they've kicked the bucket, they've croaked, they've died, various other euphemisms and such. So the title immediately doesn't lead you to think he's dead. After all, when we last saw him, how was he?
Alive.
Fully alive. He wasn't even harmed. He didn't have a scratch. So, Aragorn hears the horn of Boromir. He goes after Boromir, page 414. And this, I think, the film, this one scene, nailed it. I mean, Peter Jackson got this part perfect. Aragorn goes down to Boromir, who has become a human pincushion. He's just full of arrows.
Target dummy.
Target dummy. Yeah, target dummy. Dummy more than target. And he says, I am sorry. I tried to take the ring from Frodo. Now, what has Boromir just done by doing that, by saying that?
It's his fault.
He's admitted his error. So this class, or my Thursday night class, I raised a question and somebody said, oh yeah, that's the first step in AA. You got to admit you have a problem. He admits his problem. He confesses his fault.
A little too late, but...
Pardon?
A little too late, but...
Yeah, it's a little late, but Gandalf says he has hope that Gollum will find his cure before the end. So, I tried to take the ring from Frodo. I am sorry. I have paid. He's saying, my death will do what? Cancels out the debt. Okay? They've gone, the halflings, orcs have them. I don't think they're dead. Orcs bound them. He paused, his eye closed. Farewell, Aragorn, go to Minas Tirith, save my people. I have failed. How does he mean I have failed? He has failed what? Morally, because he tried to take the ring.
Fellowship.
The fellowship?
His people.
His people. He failed Minas Tirith. That's why he wanted the ring. Okay? Aragorn. Nope. Nope. Not a failure. You have conquered. How? Did he conquer the ring? The ring left his presence. So how else can it be a conquering?
He didn't fully buy into the temptation.
Well, he kind of did. I mean, if Frodo hadn't put the ring on, he'd have taken it from him.
In the end, he was who he was.
Meaning what?
Meaning that he was Boromir at his core without the ring's influence. He was the person he was meant to be.
What did he say? I tried to take the ring. By saying that, I think Aragorn is saying, you conquered. You overcame that aspect. So,
himself, really. He overcame his greed.
Yeah. Few have gained such a victory. Plus, what else does Aragorn see around him?
Dead orcs.
Blood.
Enemies. 20 dead orcs. What is Boromir first and foremost?
A warrior.
He's a warrior. Okay? Few have gained such a victory. Be at peace. Minas Tirith shall not fail. Be at peace. In other words, die peacefully. Don't die with an anguished soul. Die at peace. That's why we put Requiescat in Pacem. R.I.P. Rest in peace on, tombstones and such. So, Boromir smiles. Where'd Frodo go? Was Frodo with them? And Boromir's dead. It's like, you should ask that question first, So, what do Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli do? Because now, we're going to pull Boromir out. So we have those three. Merry and Pippin, we now know, are captured by orcs, and Boromir is dead. Okay?
They go after Merry and Pippin.
How soon?
Hmm?
How soon?
How soon?
How soon do they go after Merry and Pippin?
After they go back.
Not very soon.
Not very soon. What do they do first?
Try to find Frodo.
Nope.
No,
They bury Boromir. They don't literally bury him, but they get Boromir. They get him in one of the boats. They patch the boat because Sam poked holes in all the others. They patch the boat. They put Boromir in it. They get weaponry and armor from the orcs. They pile it all around him. I mean, they lean him up against the mast. They pile all the stuff around him. They put his cloven, his broken horn on his lap, put him off and say, sayonara, and they sing their little songs, okay? That has to take a while. Meanwhile, Merry and Pippin are getting farther and farther and farther and farther away. Why spend the time over dead Boromir?
Because he died.
That's what he deserves that.
Because he deserves an honorable burial. That's why. So, they sing a song about the south wind, the west wind, and the north wind. And Gimli's like, yeah, you leave me the east wind. We're not going to sing about the east wind, because what's east? Mordor. Chapter 2, Riders of Rohan. So, they're going to chase the orcs. How are these orcs apparently different from all other orcs? Well, we've not really seen many orcs yet. I mean, the little skirmishes. How are they different from orcs as orcs are normally described?
They can be in sunlight.
They're tougher.
They don't stop during the day. They run during the day and during the night. They don't really stop much. So they run and run and run and run. We're going to skip several pages of running. And pick up around 4:30, 4:31. So Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli have seen off in the distance smoke. Legolas on page 430 says, because he can count them, he sees there are 105 riders, swift steeds, yellow hair, bright spears, blah, 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 blah. Aragorn says, man, you've got good eyesight. He says, a little more than 5 leagues. And I always forget to see what 5 leagues. 5 leagues is like 10 miles up there, if I remember correctly. So he can count them 10 miles away. So, as the riders come towards them, what do Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli do? Charades? They pull their cloaks around them and sit down on the ground. So that when they ride by, what do they look like? Rocks. And as they get halfway by, so there's 105, so 52 or so, if we want to be literal, ride by, and Aragorn suddenly jumps up and throws his cloak off. And says, what news from the north, Riders of Rohan, page 431. And they encircle them and pull their spears out. So you have 3 people, 2 what look like men and a dwarf, man, elf, dwarf, surrounded by 105. Let's call them what they really are. These are Germanic warriors. The Riders of Rohan are based on Anglo-Saxon warriors. Tolkien tells us. Okay? So, they ride by. One rider says, who are you? What are you doing in this land? Using common speech, blah, 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 blah. Okay? Aragorn says, I'm called Strider. Why doesn't he say, I am Aragorn, son of Arathorn, and descended through long line from Elendil and Isildur, the heirs of Gondor. This is the...
Because he doesn't feel like he deserves it yet.
Okay, he doesn't deserve it yet, possibly?
He didn't introduce himself to Frodo as Aragorn. He introduced himself as Strider, so he's not going to introduce himself as that unless he really knows the person.
Okay.
To make it a cooler surprise.
Make it a cooler surprise.
He's in Rohan. He's not in Gondor.
He's not in Gondor, which Gondor isn't even his country either at this point yet. Go ahead.
He wants to earn the trust of Strider before he reveals that he's...
Okay.
But he just doesn't want to say, hey, I'm the king of men.
Okay. But even he can't say that because he's not the king of men. What else? He's going to ask them a question, remember?
They know Strider.
He doesn't know whose side they're on. You don't go, up to a possible enemy accomplice and say, I'm the leader of your enemy's forces. Because that would be an easy way to get killed. So, they talk for a while. They say, I thought you were orcs, but you're not orcs, are you? Are you elvish? Aragorn. No, one of us is an elf. From the woodland realm, distant Mirkwood. But we pass through Lothlorien, and the gifts and favor of the lady go with us. Favor. If you look up the word favor, whether you spell it the American way or the British way, let me rephrase it. Look up the word favor and its etymology. That is, its earliest meaning and how it changes in time. Because when he says we have the favor of the lady, that kind of means they have an aura on them. She has kind of blessed them. Okay? So there is a lady in the Golden Wood. As old tales tell. Now the story kind of began, this story almost literally began with stories of old tales back in the Green Dragon Inn with Sam's father and Ted Sandyman's father talking about stories. The idea of stories and what stories mean and what stories say figure very prominently throughout the Lord of the Rings. And we're going to really see an emphasis beginning here and moving on. We're going to hear a lot of people talk about old stories, wives' tales, myth, legend. So, what does he say in response? There is a lady in the Golden Wood, as old tales tell. Few escape her nets. That implies what?
She's evil.
She's evil. She's a trickster. And maybe you are also net weavers. Why do you not speak? He says to, Gimli and Legolas. They're just sitting there or standing. And so Gimli stands up. Probably not a huge difference in height. From the ground to standing up. Dwarves are about 4 feet tall. And Gimli, we're told, plants his feet firmly apart. Why? Why? Tolkien gives us that detail, so it means something.
He's standing firm.
That's right. He's
taller.
And he does what?
Puts his axe in between.
He grabs his axe.
He means business.
He get ready to slice and dice. His hand gripped the handle of his axe, his dark eyes flash. Give me your name, horse master, and I will give you mine and more besides. In other words, tell me who you are, and then I'll tell you my name. I don't know if you guys were ever taught, quote unquote, telephone etiquette. I was in grade school. We were taught. How do you answer a phone? When you answer a phone, you say, hello, this is the XYZ residence. But when you're the caller, you don't just say, hello, is this? Or hello, is so-and-so? You say, hello, this is. You name yourself, and then you ask your question. What's Gimli doing? He's turning that idea of etiquette on its head. Because where are they?
Middle of the field.
In the middle of nowhere.
No, they're not in the middle of nowhere. They're in the middle of Rohan. He's not in his home. He's not in his country. This is like a crazy, rude American going over to France and demanding of a Frenchman, tell me who you are. And they go, hey, you crazy American. So, as for that, says the writer, staring down at the dwarf, because remember the writer is where?
On a horse.
On his horse.
And also like 6 feet tall.
Yeah, and 6 feet, Dolph Lundgren,
They still have all the spears pointed at them.
And they still have all their spears pointed at them. He says, the stranger should declare himself first. But, okay. I am named Eomer, son of Eamon, and I'm called the third Marshal of Riddermark. That means I'm not a nobody. The third Marshal means there are multiple marshals. I am one of them. Okay? Then Eomer, son of Eamon, third Marshal of Riddermark. Notice he gets the name right. He's giving him proper due. Let Gimli the dwarf Glóin's son warn you against foolish words. So he's just called him a fool. Or he's at least said, you've spoken foolishly. You speak evil of that which is very beyond the reach of your thought, and only little wit can excuse you. But what does that mean? You speak evil of that which is fair beyond the reach of your thought. Your thought can conceive an idea of fair, beauty, only so high. She is so far beyond what you can conceive. So you're a idiot, okay? What else? And only little wit can excuse you. And because you're dim bulb in a bright bulb box. So I'm not going to chop your head off. You're stupid. Notice, Éomer completely understands what Gimli said. That's why his eyes blaze. Good thing he has a spear, not a Uzi, you know. And the men of Rohan murmured angrily because they all understood it too. And they closed in. So they've got their spears. They're on horseback. And they all move in because, you know, they don't have to throw the spears. All they have to do is keep. I would cut off your head, beard, and all, master dwarf, if it stood but a little higher from the ground. Ooh. Slam on short people, you know. You also have to understand Tolkien's cosmology. Dwarves come from the ground. They're made from the ground. Elves aren't. Men aren't. In the Silmarillion. In Legolas, just showing what an elf can do. He stands not alone, said Legolas, bending his bow and fitting an arrow with hands that moved quicker than sight. Okay, so fitting an arrow means he doesn't just have one here. He has to pull it back from the quiver, knock it, and pull the string back quicker than they can see it. Yeah. Don't mess with elves.
With his unlimited quiver.
With his unlimited, his never-ending quiver. You would die before your stroke fell. Things are not going well, right? Éomer raises his sword, and Aragorn runs in between them. Hold on. When you know more, you will understand why you've angered my companions. We intend no evil. Won't you at least hear us out before you kill us? In other words, you can kill us, but let us tell you our story first. He says, I will. But you know, you should watch your tongues. Tell me your right name. Why does he say that?
Because he knows he's not.
Because you're not Strider, you know. Tell me who you serve. I will. First tell me who you serve. What's that imply? Bob Dylan famously saying, you gotta serve someone. You gotta serve somebody unless you're a king, in which case you call the shots in your little kingdom. But he's not a king, he's Éomer, third marshal of Wintermark. Now, Aragorn knows exactly who he should be serving. Theoden, king of Rohan. But notice, Aragorn doesn't just leave it open-ended. Are you friend or foe of Sauron, the Dark Lord of Mordor? So, do you serve him? I serve only the Lord of the Mark, Theoden, king, son of Thingol. We do not serve the power of the Black Land, but we're not in open war with them yet. And if you're fleeing from him, you better get out of our land. Trouble now on all our borders, we are threatened. And he gives us, I think something that most people in this room would go, yeah, really. But we desire only to be free, to live as we have lived, keeping our own, serving no foreign lord, good or evil. They kind of want to be like Switzerland. Just leave us alone. Just let us be ourselves. We welcome guests kindly in the better days, but not anymore. Okay, so now tell me again. Who are you? Whom do you serve? At whose command do you hunt orcs in our land? And Aragorn says, I serve no man. That's a dangerous statement. If he serves no man, then what is he? Not necessarily.
An exile.
Could be an exile. Could be an outlaw. Could be a rogue.
Could be that he just served men and he's making the term more broad.
No, I don't think so.
I mean, Sauron isn't a man.
No, that's true. Sauron's not a man.
Or hobbits.
But by saying, I serve no man, he is saying, there is no man who is over me. But the servants of Sauron I pursue into whatever land they may go. So, I serve no man, but if servants of Sauron come into your land, guess what? I don't care about your borders. If they go into the land of Rivendell, I don't care about Rivendell and Elrond's borders. Borders are, for me, imaginary. What's real? Sauron's servants. So, think of what Tolkien says about applicability and allegory. Take something like this and apply it to the quote-unquote war on terror. Is there really a hard and fast border between Pakistan and Afghanistan? No. No. If he had been fighting during Vietnam, guess what? There wouldn't have been, we're at the border of Laos. We can't go into there either. Even though the Viet Cong were all backing up into Laos or Cambodia or Thailand. He's saying, in war, there are no borders. Okay? So, but he doesn't stop there. And there are few among mortal men who know more of orcs. In other words, don't tell me how to hunt orcs, boy. How old is Aragorn?
87.
He's 87. But he looks 47. Why? Because he has the blood of the men of Westernessa, their long livers. Okay? So, he talks about why he's hunting them this way, and then he says, by the way, and I'm not weaponless. And he throws back his cloak. He's great presentation here. Megamind would love him if you're familiar with Megamind. Throws back his cloak. The elven sheath glittered as he grasped it, so he throws back his cloak. He grasps the sheath, and it kind of, hits the battery, and the lights come on or whatever. You could do real fun, satire stuff with this. Pulls out the blade, which shone like a sudden flame as he swept it out. And he cries, Elendil. You want my name? It's too big for a business card, right? I am Aragorn, son of Arathorn, and am called. What does that am called mean? Other people call me that. I don't call myself this because that would be, arrogant. And I'm called Elisar, the Elfstone, Dunedain, the heir of Isildur, Elendil, son of Gondor. Now, all that means to someone in the know, this guy's the rightful king of Gondor. Arthur. Here's the sword that was broken. Here is Excalibur. Imagine somebody doing this in England today, saying, I am Arthur, son of Uther, son... Here is Excalibur and Prince Charles. Queen would have to bow down before him. Here is the sword that was broken and is forged again. Will you aid me or thwart me? Choose swiftly. Cue the Jeopardy music. He doesn't have much time, right? When Aragorn says, choose swiftly, he's got the sword out. Yeah, your time's short. Gimli and Legolas look at him in amazement. They're like, whoa! Didn't see him like this back at the council. Didn't see him like this in Moria. They've never seen him like this.
He's in charge now.
They had not seen him in this mood before. Mood doesn't mean what we think of as everyday, moody, that kind of thing. It means in this manifestation. He's really showing who he is. He seemed to have grown in stature while Eomer had shrunk. He's on foot. Eomer is on horseback. And in his living face, they caught a brief vision of the power and majesty of the kings of stone. For a moment, it seemed to the eyes of Legolas that a white flame flickered on the brows of Aragorn like a shining crown. That's the elf stone. Who is he related to? Arendil, the guy who's been turned into a star in the heavens. That's why he has the name Elfstone. Goes all the way back to the Silmarillion story. Eomer steps back, a look of awe on his face, and he does what? He turns away. He takes his eyes off Aragorn. These are indeed strange days. Dreams and legends. There's that old wives' tale, myth, fairy tale, etc. spring to life out of the grass. Old legends. That's why I said Arthur. Everybody thinks Arthur is a legend, and Arthur probably is a legend. In this world, this is Arthur proving I'm not a legend. I'm real. I could show you the DNA if he needed to. So he says, tell me, Lord. He doesn't say, so Strider, what's hanging, man? Tell me, Lord, what brings you here? That is, why are you in our little podunk backwater piece of the world? What was the meaning of the dark words? That is, the words Boromir took north. What doom do you bring? The doom of choice. What's the choice? You've got to say to Theoden, open war lies before him, either with Sauron or against him. You guys are all too young to remember. Literally, you're too young to remember. After 9/11, about 2 weeks after 9/11, Bush gave a speech to Congress. Joint House of Congress. And he said in that speech, when he announced, essentially what we're going to do, we're going to give the Taliban an ultimatum, etc. He said to the world community, you are either for us or against. That's exactly what Aragorn is saying here. You're either for us and against Sauron, or you're against Sauron. No, you're against us and for Sauron. Heads you lose and tails I win, kind of a thing. So they keep talking about the orcs and such, and they say there were halflings with them. Well, I don't know what a halfling is. Short people, etc. Hobbits, Eomer. What are they? Gimli says halflings. Bottom of 434. A writer next to Eomer says halflings. They are only a little people in old songs, in children's tales out of the north. Do we walk in legends or on green earth in the daylight? Now, if I were filming a satire version of this, I would have Aragorn walk up to the guy and smack him upside the head and go, legend! Legend just smacked you upside the head. Aragorn, a man may do both. For not we, but those who come after will make the legends of our time. What is one of our legends from the 20th century?
World War II.
Closer. Keep going. What about the people who fought in it? What's their nickname? The Greatest Generation. I don't know. I'll bet some World War I vets would kind of go, whoa, what about us? And some Civil War vets would go, come on, man. We kept the country together. You just fought the Nazis and the Japanese and stuff. I mean, you saved the world. We saved the country so that we could save the world later, What's his point? We don't make the legends. The legends come when?
After.
About us. Our deeds. If we do, quote unquote, legendary deeds. I mean, look at almost the legendarium that is coming, that is developing out of the events right on 9/11 and shortly thereafter. I mean, the hagiography, that is the turning into saints, national saints kind of, for example, of the firefighters. And I'm not saying it's wrong. I don't think it's wrong. I think it's right. But those are legendary actions. Why? Because most people ran the other direction. The green earth, that's a mighty matter of legend, though you tread it under the light of day. Now that's Tolkien's earth lover, environmentalism coming up, which is all fine. He really gets it when we meet Treebeard. So they keep talking. Eomer kind of steps aside with Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli, and they talk a lot. And 437, towards the bottom, Aragorn explains, I can't leave my friends, meaning Merry and Pippin. I cannot desert my friends while hope remains. Eomer, hope does not remain. Believe me, they weren't with the orcs. Yeah, but they were dressed like we were, they say. I'm 438. Yeah, I forgot that. Hard to be sure of anything among so many marvels. Middle of 438. The world is all grown strange. What's that mean? Even after 9/11, the world hasn't all grown strange for us. Because if you were awake and aware, 9/11 was merely a really big example of littler things that had been happening before then. Okay? What's he mean the world has really grown strange? It's like everything's upside down. Yeah. How so? Legends walk.
King of Gondor showed up.
King of Gondor showed up. Elves and dwarves in company. What would an example of that be for us today? The head of the NAACP and the Grand Wizard of the KKK walking down the street hand in hand to a KKK NAACP unification rally. Wouldn't happen in art. Well, I used to think the Berlin Wall would never fall. Maybe it will. But that's what he means. Everything's topsy-turvy.
Actual evil forces trying to take over the world.
Yeah. Folks speak with the Lady of the Wood, and they live. The sword comes back to war that was broken. How shall a man judge what to do in such a time? What's the question mean? How do I know what is right and wrong? How do I judge what to do? Look at Aragorn's response. As he's always judged. Why? Good and ill have not changed since yesteryear. Nor are they one thing among elves and dwarves and another thing among men. In other words, Tolkien very clearly wants us to believe that Aragorn is no relativist. He's not a cultural or moral relativist, meaning the idea that all cultures have equal validity, equal value, or all moralities have equal validity or equal value. Aragorn would say, that's a bunch of nonsense. Some cultures are better than others. Gondor's culture is better than Mordor's culture. Okay? Is Gondor's culture better than the Shire's? We could debate about that. Maybe have a scholarly conference, invite a bunch of English professors and such. So he says, they're not one thing among elves and dwarves and another among men. Guess what? It doesn't matter if you're from that country or from that country. Good is good, evil is evil. It is a man's part to discern them. Discern means to divide, to differentiate between the two. As much in the golden wood, la la land, fantasy land, as where? Home. In the real world. Amor, yeah, I understand all that, but I can't do what I want. Why?
He's been exiled.
No. This is Amor saying, because he serves somebody. Aragorn can do what he wants, right? Because nobody's his boss. Gandalf's not his boss. Elrond's not his boss. Theoden is not Aragorn's boss. Nobody. He's Éomer's. Yeah. Nobody is Aragorn's. So Éomer is saying, I've got a higher power I answer to. And Aragorn's, yeah, I get that. But I don't think your laws were meant to apply to me. Or to this situation. And he says, in fact, Sonny, bottom of 438, I'm not a stranger here. I've been in this land before, more than once. Ridden with the host of the Rohirrim, though under another name and other guise. He said, I've not seen you before, for you're young. But I have spoken with your father and with Theoden, and never in former days would any high lord of this land stop me, etc., etc. So, Éomer says, I'm going to roll the dice here. And he says, I'll let you go. And he not only lets him go, he gives him 3 horses. So they go on. They camp outside or just under the eaves of Fangorn, 442 and 43. They see a guy in white. They kind of wonder, Chapter 3 of the Uruk-hai, I'm going to skip. Only thing I'm going to point out, or I'm not even going to point out, important there is, what do Merry and Pippin both show at various points in that chapter?
How lucky they are.
How lucky they are. What else?
The ability to think on their feet.
They think on their feet. They escape briefly, drop the brooch, work the orcs against each other, and ultimately escape. Okay? We come to chapter 4, Treebeard. So they get up, they wake up the next morning, and they go farther in Treebeard, in Fangorn, and they climb up this rocky promontory. And they look out over the top of the forest and into the fields of Rohan, page 463. They look out eastward. They saw they'd only come some 3 or 4 miles into the forest. The heads of the trees marched down the slopes towards the plain. They see tall spires of curling black smoke. Merry says, the wind's changing. It's turned east again. It feels cool up here. Pippin, yes, I'm afraid this is only a passing gleam, and it will all go gray again. What a pity. The shaggy old forest looks so different in the sunlight. I almost felt I liked the place. And suddenly they hear this deep, booming voice. Now, the deep, booming voice of Treebeard is based upon Tolkien's good friend C.S. Lewis. When Lewis lectured, he had this voice that just resonated. Apparently when Tolkien lectured, he muttered a lot, and he spoke in a very quiet voice, kind of like this. And people in some of the lecture halls couldn't hear him in the back. Lewis, they could hear him outside. Okay? So you hear this, almost felt you like the forest. That's good. That's uncommonly good. Okay, so they meet Treebeard. Treebeard says, you're not in the list of creatures, etc., etc. 466. He asks him about Gandalf. Or they ask him. Merry says, and did you know Gandalf? Notice, did you know? He says, yes, I do know him. Why? Because in Treebeard's experience, Gandalf isn't dead. He just hasn't seen him recently, so he's still alive as far as he knows. Only wizard that really cares about trees. Do you know him? Yes, we did. It's kind of like, let's get our tenses right here, Treebeard, He was a great friend. He was our guide. Now, this is Pippin saying this. Fool of a took! Next time, throw yourself in. Treebeard says, finishing his next paragraph, but you speak of Master Gandalf as if he was in a story that had come to an end. And they tell him about Gandalf's death. Okay, cool. So Treebeard takes him to his house, cave, gives him Ent draft to drink, Ent beer, essentially. And the long and the short of the Ent beer is it makes them what by the end of the novel? They grow a foot. So they're 4-foot tall hobbits. They stand head and shoulders above all the other hobbits. Okay? So 473, I'm skipping a bunch. They talk about Saruman. Now, Treebeard's talked to them a little bit about Ent wives and such. And they talk about Saruman. And he says at the bottom of that page, I think I now understand what he's up to. He is plotting to become a power. Well, what did Saruman tell Gandalf that Gandalf related at the Council of Elrond? I am Saruman of many colors, Saruman lore master, Saruman ring maker. He wants to raise himself to the level of a Sauron. He is plotting to become a power. He has a mind of metal in wheels. He does not care for growing things except as they serve him for the moment. So, we find out there's going to be an Ent moot, which is a meeting of Ents. And Treebeard doesn't think anything's going to come of it, but they decide to march on Isengard. Okay? Pick up with chapter 5. We might actually get through this. We'll see. No, we'll get bogged down in the voice of Saruman. Believe me. So, chapter 5. We've gone back to Where are they? Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli. So notice, when the first book ends, you've got these two go off on their own. These guys are all together. When Two Towers opens, we have three groups. The dead group, captured by orc group, free group. And so we start with them. And we go up with them for a while. And then we get, the Uruk-hai. We're back to Merry and Pippin. And then we do what? We go back to Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli. Because we're not going to have another chapter with Boromir. He stayed there.
We have a Treebeard chapter with Merry and Pippin too.
Yeah, Treebeard chapter with Merry Pippin. So chapter 1 is Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli. Chapter 2 is still Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli. Chapter 3 is them and the orcs. Chapter 4 is them and Treebeard. And now we go next chapter back to... So we have two strands, okay? Yes?
I found it kind of interesting that, because the movies are my favorite things ever, and I read these years ago. I found it interesting that they cut it in half between the two books. On the first half is Aragorn and Merry and Pippin, and then the second half is all the stuff Frodo and Sam.
Right. So,
Which is confusing.
chapter 5, Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli, they're in Fangorn. Now, what do we know about Fangorn? Other than what we hear in Treebeard, in the chapter Treebeard. What did we hear anything about Fangorn Forest before?
Don't go there.
Not really, other than it's really old. When the previous chapter, they're under the eaves of it, and Aragorn says, yeah, it's one of the oldest woods in the river in the world, older than the trees at the Barrow Downs, etc. Okay, so they go in, page 491, and Gimli's kind of like, kind of get the willies here, and Legolas is like, oh man, this is like fresh water and clean air. It is old, very old. So old that almost I feel young again. See, even Legolas is several hundred years old. As I have not felt since I journeyed with you children. Okay? And Gimli's like, that makes me feel better. Where you go, I will go. Okay? So they see this old man, page 492 and 93. In 493, he speaks to him. Well met, my friend. I wish to speak to you. Will you come down or shall I climb up? And so he starts to climb up. Okay. Gimli tells Legolas, stop him. What's Gimli mean? Kill him! Did I not say I wish to speak to you, said the old man. Put away that bow, Master Elf. And Gimli drops them. You, Master Dwarf, pray take your hand from your axe haft. And Gimli, stands still as stone. So they talk again. And Aragorn says, what's your name? Top of 494. My name? Have you not guessed it already? You've heard it before, I think. Yes, you have heard it. What of your tale? They're silent. He says, I know some of it. You're tracking the footsteps of two young hobbits. Yes, hobbits. Don't act like you've never heard the name before. So have I. They climbed a pier day before yesterday. They met someone. Didn't expect. Did that come for you? Notice, it's all riddles. What does he not say? I know you're looking for Merry and Pippin. They're in the company of Treebeard. Treebeard is the oldest of the Ents. In fact, some say he's the oldest. And he has marched to Isengard to wreak hell on Saruman. Oh, and by the way, I'm Gandalf. He doesn't do that.
How did Gandalf mask his voice? Because when you talk to someone, even if they don't look the same, you recognize their voice. So did he disguise his voice?
He's a wizard.
Well,
no, but
he's
still,
a
it doesn't
wizard.
specifically say that.
But he's not the same Gandalf. I mean,
So would
which
it
he's
be
going
a
to say.
different voice? Does Tolkien say anything about that?
No. So the old man takes no notice. He turns away for a moment to some stones to sit down. And as soon as he does, Gimli's hand goes back to his axe. Legolas's hands go back to the bow and arrow. Okay. Aragorn draws his sword. And as he sat down, his gray cloak kind of shifts. And they see he's all white underneath. Gimli, Saruman, speak, blah, blah, blah. The old man was too quick for him. He sprang to his feet, leaped to the top of a large rock. There he stood, grown suddenly tall, towering above them. His hood and his gray rags were flung away. His white garment shone. He lifted up his staff. Gimli's axe leaped from his grasp, fell ringing on the ground. The sword of Aragorn, stiff in his motionless hand, blazed with a sudden fire. Now, literally, that sounds like what? Whoosh! Now, maybe it's supposed to be metaphorical, and the sun came out from behind a cloud and shined right on it. And what else? Legolas gave a great shout, shot an arrow high into the air. It vanished in a flash of flame. Mithrandir, the elvish name for Gandalf. Well met, I say to you. Why should they not have thought Saruman?
He was wearing gray.
Okay. What did they see under the gray?
White.
What did Saruman's cloak robe change to?
Many colors.
Gandalf says, though, at first he thought it was white, and then he looked more closely and saw it shimmering in different colors. Now, they only get a glance, and it looks white, kind of like when Gandalf first saw Saruman's. Okay? And Aragorn says, top of 495, beyond all hope, you return to us in our need. In other words, that is a eucatastrophe. It is a beautiful sudden turn, or sudden and miraculous turn, never to be recounted on. That is never to count on happening again. I mean, because if he died and came back again, what would you start to think? Well, this is lame. But once, okay, then we can work with that. Gandalf, he goes, was that the name? Yeah, that was the name. I was Gandalf. He steps down. Yeah, you can still call me Gandalf. He goes, no, you're okay, Gimli. No blame. No harm. You couldn't harm me if you wanted to. Here, try, Indeed, my friends, none of you have any weapon that could hurt me. I mean, we're Twilight Zone land. Is he not mortal? Could Aragorn not take his sword and lop his head off? I mean, literally, you don't have any weapons that could hurt me. That's kind of what it means. Or does it mean, and if I tried to stop you, there's nothing you can do to hurt me. He says, when Gimli says, but you're all in white. Tolkien is a wordsmith. He worked 17 years. He worked 9 years writing. The other 8 were editing and revising, largely this. Okay? There's not a word in here, really, that he doesn't want in here. So, but Gandalf, he said, you are all in white. Yes, I am white. I'm not in white. I am white. I am light. Okay? Indeed, I am Saruman. One might almost say, Saruman as he should have been. That is, Saruman should have become what I am now. But tell me, what's been going on with you? I passed through fire, deep water since we parted. I have forgotten much that I thought I knew and learned much again that Aragorn, what do you wish to know? All that's happened since we parted would be a long tale. Not too long. Take more than a few minutes, though. So, they talk about the hobbits. Okay? In 496, Gandalf says, you not told me everything about, what you know, Aragorn. Poor Boromir, I could not see what happened to him. It was a sore trial for such a man, a warrior and a lord of men. Galadriel told me he was in peril. And they're like, when did you see Galadriel? But he escaped in the end. And I think that goes back to, you have conquered.
Could that also mean that when he spoke to Galadriel, that it's kind of like the thing with the elves?
What do you mean?
They go over to the
Oh.
Valinor, and
over to that Halls of
The-
Mandos?
yeah, the
you
whole-
mean that Boromir could have?
No, Gandalf. the
Oh,
whole
yeah,
to
we're
be-
going to get to that in a moment.
Okay. I didn't know.
Maybe more than a moment, but we're going to get to that. So, they talk about Fangorn. He talks about a falling of small stones that starts an avalanche. Again, everyone's like, you're talking in riddles. He goes, riddles? No, I'm not. I'm talking to myself. Choose the wisest person to talk to. So, skip a bit. 498, 499, Gandalf explains about the Ents. What do we hear about the Ents? The Ents are what?
Assaulting Isengard.
Okay. But even before that, page 499, the Ents,
Had Merry and Pippin.
exclaims Aragorn, then there is truth in the old legends about the dwellers in the deep forest and the giant shepherds. In other words, the Ents, those are fairy tales. They're real. Legend. He should understand that. Are there still Ents in the world? I thought they were only a memory of ancient days. Legolas, a legend? No. Every elf in Wilderland has sung songs of the Onodrim. Boy, if I met one still walking, I'd feel really young. So, Gandalf explains. Treebeard is Fangorn. The whole forest is named after him. He is the Ent, the eldest Ent. He's the first Ent. I guess of the other Ents before the Entwives came around were like saplings of him or something. Okay? He's the guardian of the forest, the oldest of the Ents, the oldest living thing that still walks beneath the sun upon this Middle Earth. Footnote, except for Tom Bombadil. At least that's what Tom Bombadil says. Tom Bombadil says he is oldest. In fact, he says, I was here before the rain, before the sun, before the dark came from the outside. Now, Treebeard wasn't there then. Nothing was on Arda then. Yes, except for Tom Bombadil.
So could it just be that when he says the oldest living thing that walks beneath the sun, it's Tolkien's wordcraft being that Treebeard has always walked under the sun.
Exactly.
But Tom Bombadil didn't walk under the sun.
And that may give us a little clue as to who/what Tom Bombadil is. Maybe Tom Bombadil isn't under the sun, literally, meaning bound to this place. Maybe this is just a manifestation of something else. I think that's what it is, at least. So, they keep going on, keep talking, and Gimli says, bottom of that page, 499, I thought Fangorn was dangerous. That is, the wood. Gandalf says, he is, so am I, very dangerous. More dangerous than anything you'll ever meet unless you're brought before the seat of the Dark Lord. And Aragorn is dangerous, and Legolas is dangerous, and even you're dangerous, Gimli, in your own fashion. Certainly the forest is dangerous, okay? So he talks about the Ents are going to wake up, find out that they're strong, etc., etc. So, let's see here. They talk about the ring, Frodo and Sam, page 500. And Gandalf turns to Aragorn and says, don't regret your choice in the valley of the Emyn nor call it a vain pursuit. You chose amid doubts the path that seemed right. Amid doubts, that is, you had to choose in a very, very sticky situation, and you did your best. The choice was just. It has been rewarded. His choice was what? Go after Merry and Pippin and not after Sam and Frodo. In fact, he says, so we're not going to see the hobbits again? Legolas says that? Gandalf, I didn't say so. Who knows? Have patience, maybe. So that's when Aragorn calls him the White Rider. So, next page. They ask him what happened. Come on, what happened when you fell? Give us the details. And Gandalf says, You know, they fell for a long time. They finally hit the water. They went through the water. They hit the ground. They came out of the water, and they climbed up Xerox Ziggle, this winding staircase, essentially. And they came out on the top of the mountain. Page 502, first long paragraph, about 3 lines down. Out he sprang, and even as I came behind, he burst into new flame. There was none to see, or perhaps in after ages songs would still be sung of the battle of the peak. And he laughs. Thunder they heard, lightning they said, smote upon Shelob. Is that not enough? I threw down my enemy, he fell from the high place, broke the mountainside where he smote it in his ruin. Then darkness took me, and I strayed out of thought and time. Darkness took me, and I wandered far on roads that I will not tell. What does it mean? I strayed out of thought and time. Death. He died. He died. He didn't mostly die. He was totally dead. Okay? Wandered far on roads that I will not tell. Now, most of us who've read the Silmarillion and a couple of Tolkien's other things think that means Gandalf went off to the halls of Mandos, off in Valinor, where Nienna rules. Because there's a special relationship between Nienna, I think it's Nienna, and Gandalf. And he's kind of revived, let's say. Naked I was sent back for a brief time until my task was done. Naked can have 2 meanings. Naked can mean physically naked. He was sent back in a body that didn't have any clothes on it. Or it could mean he was sent back as a spirit without a body, and the body was given to him after he came back. Naked I lay upon the mountaintop. Tower behind was crumbled into dust, the window gone, the ruins there. I was alone, forgotten, without escape. I lay staring upward while the stars ruled overhead. Each day was as long as a life. And finally, Gwaihir the Wind Lord comes. Why does Gwaihir the Wind Lord come? Galadriel said, go look for Gandalf. Kind of like, he can't be dead. So, he then recounts to them the words of Galadriel to each of them. 503. Where now are the Dunedain, Elisar, that is, where are the Rangers of the North? We know where Aragorn is. Where are all of his kinsmen? We haven't seen any of them yet. Why do thy kinsfolk wander afar? And here is the hour when the lost should come forth, the great company right from the north. In other words, call for your people. Legolas. She says, Legolas, green leaf long under tree, enjoy thou hast lived. Beware of the sea. If thou hearest the cry of the gull on the shore, thy heart shall then rest in the forest no more. If you hear the sound of the ocean, you will not have any peace in Middle Earth. Once he hears the sound of the ocean, he'll want to leave. He'll want to go across the ocean to Valinor. Gimli. Then she sent me no message? He's kind of like, damn. Legolas, man, you shouldn't want her words. These are not good words. Would you ever speak openly to of your death? Yes. Gandalf, oh yeah, sorry. Forgot, Gimli. She did have words for you. To Gimli, son of Glóin, give his lady's greeting. Lock bearer, wherever thou goest, my thought goes with thee. But have a care to lay thine axe to the right tree. In other words, don't go killing any trees in Fangor. Lock bearer, wherever thou goest, my thought goes with thee. What does that mean?
He holds her locks.
Yeah, he holds 3 strands of her hair, but that doesn't mean anything about thought.
Always on my mind.
He's obsessed with her.
It's not him. It's her. She says, wherever you are, my thought goes with you. Wherever you are, I'm thinking of you.
Her hair is scented.
No, look at Gimli's response. Does he think she's just saying, because you got 3 strands of my hair, therefore my thought is with you? In happy hour you have returned to us. Come, he shouted, swinging his axe. Since Gandalf's head is now sacred, let us find one that it is right to cleave. Capering, as he sang loudly. What does it mean to caper? He's like dancing a Scottish jig. He is overjoyed. Why? He interprets, I think, I could be totally wrong, but I don't think so. He interprets her saying to mean, you're always on my mind. I'm always thinking of you, Gimli. He's like, still my beating heart, Keep in mind, he's a dwarf. She's not just a elf. She's not any old elf. She is uber high elf, Okay. So, they ride to Rohan. Well, yeah, they ride to Rohan. Chapter 6, King of the Golden Hall. They come up on a funeral, on not a funeral, a place where funerals occur, cemetery. They see a bunch of burial mounds. Sorry. Page 508. And Aragorn sings a song. I always forget to do this. Shut up, I don't want to submit that form. Wonder. A-N-D-E-R-E-R. Old English. Yes, I know what it is. I just want the poem in Old English. No, that's modern English. Here we go. There's an Old English text. Bear in mind, Tolkien was a scholar of Anglo-Saxon. There's an Old English text, poem, called The Wanderer. And it has in it a famous portion that's called, because the ubi sunt comes from Latin, it's called the ubi sunt motif. Ubi sunt means where are. Okay? I think it was Peter, Paul, and Mary back in the 60s had a famous ubi sunt song called Where Have All the Flowers Gone? And it was an anti-war song. Okay? Well, this Aragorn sings, and if you've got the DVD extended version of Lord of the Rings, he sings it, it's in Old English. Where now the horse and the rider? Where is the horn that was blowing? Where is the helm and the hauberk and the bright hair flowing? Blah, 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 blah. In the Old English, the Wanderer, where quam merg, that is, where is the horse? Where quam mago, that is the man. Where quam madum eva? Where quam simbla yesetu? Where sinden celadremus? Eala berchtbuna, eala birnwiga, eala theodus thrum. They have passed like rain on the mountain, like a wind. What's the point of it? What happened to these people? It's as if they are no more, because they are no more. It's as if they never lived. Okay? The point in both The Wanderer and this is what war gets you. Okay? So, they ride on, they go to the Golden Hall. Meduseld. It's Old English. It means mead hall. Theoden is called Theoden King. Theoden in Old English is king. King, king. Okay? So, they get to Theoden's hall. They're told, leave all your weapons. This is very typical Germanic fashion. Why do you want people to leave their weapons outside your home when they come in?
You get drunk.
Yeah, because if they get drunk in Germanic fashion, that's what people do. Okay, tons of stories about guys coming in all armed to the hilts, getting drunk to the gills, and blood everywhere. Okay, so Aragorn even agrees to leave in Durin. Excalibur, been gone for thousands of years. But Gandalf's like, I'm an old man. I need my stick. I'm not going. So the door warden agrees. You can take it. Gandalf goes in. He greets Theoden. He greets him nicely. Bottom of 512. Hail Theoden, son of Thingol. I have returned, for behold, the storm comes, and now all friends should gather together, lest each singly be destroyed. I have returned, I come, let's unite our powers, And he says, I greet you, and maybe you look for welcome, but truth to tell, your welcome is doubtful here, Master Gandalf. You've ever been a herald of woe. Whenever you show up, bad things happen. Okay? And there's a slimy little wormy guy sitting behind Theoden. And he whispers in his ear, you speak justly, Lord. It is not 5 days since, blah, 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 blah. So skip the rest of Wormtongue and go to 514. Gandalf, he's had enough of Wormtongue. The wise speak only of what they know, Grimace, son of Galmad. A witless worm have you become, therefore be silent. Keep your forked tongue behind your teeth. I have not passed through fire and death to bandy crooked words with a serving man till the lightning falls. He raises his staff, and, lightning, roll of thunder, sunlight's blotted out from the eastern windows. So we're told there's multiple windows, and the hall suddenly gets dark. There's a fire. You have to understand how this thing looks. So if you're looking down at the hall from the top, it's like this. Here's doors here. You have a central hearth right in the middle of the hall. Probably just a hole in the wooden floor. Okay? So if you're looking at it from the side, it's going to look something like this, and there will be possibly a chimney, but more than likely, if it's anything like a Viking hall, just a hole in the roof. So you've got the fire here, smoke rises, and what does it do? It gathers all up here and slowly comes out here. So, this isn't this nice, pristine, beautiful hall. It's going to be dark inside it anyway. But now Gandalf's killed the light from all these windows that are up in one side. And they hear Wormtongue, and Gandalf tells them to shut up. Bottom of 514. Now, Theoden, son of Thingol, will you hearken to me, says Gandalf. Will you listen to me? Do you ask for help? You want help? And he points at one window. Little bit of light comes in. And through the opening could be seen, high and far, a patch of shining sky. That is, all around them it's dark. Through that one, imagine we didn't have lights in here, we didn't have this window, and imagine one brick missing. And you can see light blue sky out. It's not nighttime, obviously. Okay? Not all is dark. Take courage. In other words, if it were all dark, yeah, put your head between your legs, kiss, you're walking by, and take courage, Lord of the Mark, for better help you will not find. No counsel have I to give to those that despair. Because if you have despair, there's no hope. If you think there is no hope, there will be no hope for you. Will you hear, he says, my counsel? Counsel I could give, words I could speak to you. Will you hear them? They're not for all ears. The counsel I would give you is not for Wormtongue. I bid you come out before your doors and look abroad. Too long have you sat in shadows and trusted to twisted tales and crooked promptings. So what has Gandalf just done? Is it like in the film? Points his staff at Saruman and says, Theoden says, Saruman, come out! And we see Saruman, wrestling because he's somehow possessed Theoden. No. He's appealing to what? His reason. His reason. Theoden gets up. Theoden's younger than Aragorn. Theoden's, if I remember right, Theoden's about my age, 55, 56, something like that. He gets up. And a faint light grows in the hall again. Is that because Gandalf goes, "You know, lights," as he gets up, make it brighter? Be good special effects, right? Or is it getting light in the hall because Theoden is coming back to the light? Is what happening outwardly matching what's happening inwardly in him? Faint light grows. The woman hastened to the king's side. The woman that's standing on the other side of him. So Wormtongue was on one side, evil angel, and she's the good angel whispering. Taking his arm, and with faltering steps, he's an old man, so he's walking, limping almost. He steps down from the dais, because he's on a raised platform, and paces softly through the hall. Wormtongue's lying there, groveling and sniveling. They open the doors. The doors roll back. Keen, that is cold, bracing air comes in. Gandalf says, "Send your men down." He tells Eowyn, the old king does, says, "Go away." So we're left with just Gandalf and Theoden standing on the top of this porch-like thing, looking out. Okay? And Aragorn sees Eowyn for the first time, and she sees Aragorn and goes, "Damn, he's hot, man." And she falls in love with him almost immediately, and he's like already taken. Elf princess, And so Gandalf tells Theoden, 5:15, just past the middle, "Now, Lord, look out upon your land. Breathe the free air again." And we get a little one of these. We get a mini eucatastrophe. Look at this description. From the porch upon the top of the high terrace, they could see beyond the stream the green fields of Rohan, fading into distant gray. Curtains of wind-blown rain were slanting down. So off in the distance, you can see a rainstorm. The sky above and to the west was still dark with thunder. Lightning far away flickered among the tops of hidden hills. But the wind had shifted to the north, and already the storm that had come out of the east, Mordor, was receding. That storm didn't come out, it's now being pushed back, rolling away southward to the sea. Suddenly, through a rent in the clouds behind them, that is, behind Gandalf and Theoden, the clouds break behind them, a hole breaks through, and a stab of sunlight shines down. From behind them, looking down this way, the falling showers gleamed like silver, and far away the river glittered like a shimmering glass. That is almost a verbal, pictorial description of what Tolkien described of what a eucatastrophe does. It produces joy. It's that lifting of the heart moment. When it's a perception of, as he puts it, joy beyond the confines of the world. And he just visually gives it to us here. What's its purpose? What has Theoden been seeing for far too long? Darkness. And now, this is beauty unimaginable. Where those gray showers now look like diamonds. Each shower, each drop, reflecting a little bit of light. It is not so dark here. No. Nor does age lie so heavily on your shoulders as some would have you think. Because he's standing there and he's holding on to his staff. He's not. He's like this. Again, it was like, throw away the stick, man. You're not that old. From the king's hand, the black staff fell clattering on the stones, and he's like this. He goes from being 4'8" to being 6'4". He drew himself up slowly as a man that is stiff from long bending over some dull toil. Now tall and straight he stood, and his eyes were blue. Earlier, at one point, they were described as clouded. His eyes are like what? the sky. As blue, as he looked into the opening sky, it's like he reflects now that. Dark have been my dreams of late, but I feel as one new awakened. That's Tolkien's idea of recovery. He sees as he is meant to see. What was Wormtongue doing? Making him see what he wanted him to see. And each of us has that power. Each of us can be a Wormtongue. Or each of us can be a Gandalf. Okay? How can you be a Wormtongue? Take somebody, not literally, but take somebody, and speak to them in one way repeatedly over years. Take a kid, take two babies. Baby A, baby B. Put baby B in one family, baby A in another family. Do this as a science experiment, Don't do it. And baby A's family tells that baby from the moment of its birth, you are rotten, you are lousy, you will never amount to anything, you are a pain in mind and a sorry scab on the face of the earth. Every day, day in and day out, until 13. Take baby B and say, you are wonderful, and joy, and a blessing, and you make my life feel worth living. You can be whatever you want to be. Cue all the military, recruiting slogans. Be all you can be, go where you want to, all that kind of stuff. What's the difference in those two kids going to be?
Baby A is going to be the next Hitler.
Baby A might not be Hitler, but probably is not going to rise above very well. Probably is going to have some self-esteem issues. And believe me, I'm not a self-esteem person. Participation trophies are spawn of Satan, that kind of. But that's how you can be a Gandalf or a Wormtongue. I would now. Would there means desired, wished that you would come before Gandalf. He did. He wouldn't listen. For I fear that already you have come too late. Yeah, I can stand up. I don't need my stick. I can see clearly. Now, the rain has gone. 1960 song again, But what's he saying? It's too late for me now. It's not too late for him. Not long now shall stand the high hall which brag of blah, blah, blah. What's to be done? Gandalf says, a lot. Release Eomer, because you have him locked up, right? Yeah. He rebelled against him. No, he didn't. He disagreed with Wormtongue. People can disagree with Wormtongue and still love you. Get him his sword, So they bring Gandalf, they bring Theoden his sword, top of 517. Slowly Theoden sits down, as if weariness still struggled to master him, against the will of Gandalf. He turned and looked at his great house. Alas, these evil days should be mine, should come in my old age, instead of that peace which... What's he kind of doing here? I'm supposed to die in peace. I'm an old man. Alas for Boromir the brave. The young perish, Boromir, and the old linger withering. There's a line in The Wanderer, again, not in The Wanderer, in Beowulf, where the old king, Hrothgar, tells Beowulf, everyone has to expect one of three things. Death by sword, death by fire, death by flood. And then he goes on and expands it, or just death. Everybody's going to die. He's old, Beowulf's young. And he does what? He clutches his knees with his wrinkled... It doesn't mean he just puts his hands on his knees. He's clutching them. Why? He's shrinking back up. I'm dying. Gandalf says, you'd feel better if you held a sword. Why? Because Gandalf is a warmongering, fascist? No. Because Theoden is what? He's a warrior. just like Boromir, only he's a good one. I don't mean Boromir was a bad one. He's not one who turns, okay? So they bring him his sword out. And what happens? He takes it. It seemed to the watchers that firmness and strength returned to his thin arm. He lifts the blade, swings it, shimmering, whistling, and he cries out, "Arise now, arise, rioters of Theoden, dire deeds awake, dark is it eastward, let horse be bridled, horn be sounded." In other words, let's go kick. Okay? So, let's skip a bunch again. Here's they have another talk with Wormtongue, and they give him a choice. Prove your loyalty. How? Ride with us to war. Ride to glory. Ride to kill, or be killed in battle. And he's like, and what's the other choice? Go back to Saruman. I'll go back to Saruman. And we come to chapter 7, Helm's Deep. Helm's Deep is all of 16 pages. The entire chapter, that is. 16 pages. The actual battle in Helm's Deep is only 9 pages. Out of a volume that's over 200 pages. In the film version of The Two Towers, the Battle of Helm's Deep is literally, if I remember correctly, a little over a fourth of the entire film.
It's like 40 minutes or something.
Yeah. Okay. When the film came out, because I was the editor of a journal that had to do with Tolkien and stuff, I was doing conferences all over. There were actually 2 different conferences, and both of them, I was on a panel discussion. They essentially asked the question. One of them was at Oxford. Does Tolkien glorify war? And I'm like, what fool kind of asked that kind of question? Of course he doesn't glorify war. Peter Jackson glorifies war. Why? Because the little New Zealander had never been in war. All you have to do is read the foreword to the 2nd edition. And what does Tolkien tell us? By the time he was what? 21, something like that? Time. 3 tells us. Well, he says by 1918. So, 18, by the time he's 26, all of his friends but one, all of his close friends but one were dead. Okay? And then if you read the novel, it's pretty clear. War is not glorified at all. So it's a minor portion. We're not even going to talk about it, other than to just say that. Because there's not anything of great importance there. Yeah, okay. Legolas and Gimli have their little competition. Ooh, who can kill more orcs? And how much did the film do with that? I mean, they ran that joke till it was dead. Okay? Plus, we had dwarf tossing. Actually, that was in the Fellowship. We won't talk about that. So, the road to Isengard.
It's still a cool scene.
Yeah, great CGI, great graphics, all that. The elves just... Nobody would lose against elves. Not even Sauron. So in 548, they're making their way to Isengard. And we've heard, back at Fangorn, we heard Legolas talk about Fangorn. Trees here so old, he almost feels young again, blah, blah, blah. And Gimli essentially said, I will go with you wherever you go. It's almost like he's quoting from the book of Ruth in the Old Testament. Whither thou goest, I will go. Ruth says to Naomi, or Naomi says to Ruth. I would get those two mixed up. Ruth says it to Naomi. So here, 548, Gimli's now seen something he really likes. The Caverns of Helm's Deep. He's like, man, Legolas, you got to see this. Legolas like, and it's just, kind of claustrophobic in caverns. Okay? So, he agrees. Bottom of 548. Middle of 548. You move me, Gimli. I've never heard you speak like this before. Almost you make me regret I have not seen these caves. Let's make a bargain. If we both return safe, You visit Fangorn with me, and then I will come with you to see Helm's Deep. Notice who gets to go first. El's putting himself first. Gimli says, that would not be the way of return I could choose. He's implying, let's go to Helm's Deep first, and then we'll go to Fangorn. He says, but I will endure Fangorn if I have your promise to come. Okay? So, 549. There's all kinds of dead orcs all over. And they're worried about them. And Gandalf tells Theoden and such about the herdsmen of the trees. And he's thinking, well, if there's herdsmen do what? They herd flocks of animals. What are their flocks? He goes, trees. You don't want to mess with those trees. The Hjorns, not even Legolas really wants to mess with them. Bottom of 549. Gandalf's, again, still telling him about the Ents. And he says, Ents, Theoden does. Out of the shadows of legend. There it is again. I begin a little to understand the marvel of the trees, I think. I have lived to see strange days. Long have we tended our... Now look at this little scene. Long have we tended our beasts and our fields, built our houses, wrought our tools, ridden away to help in the wars of Minas Tirith. And that we call the life of men, the way of the world. Now that can describe the real world, right? Long have we tended our fields, raised our beasts, done our jobs, worked our work, etc., fought our wars, defended blah, 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 and that's the way of the world. We cared little for what lay beyond the borders of our land. Is that any different than the hobbits in the Shire? Not at all. Songs we have that tell of these things, that is, of these things beyond our borders, but we are forgetting them, teaching them only to children as a careless custom. Careless. He means a thoughtless tradition, a tradition without any meaning to it. What's his point?
Industrialization, forgetting about nature.
Could be, but he's not talking about industrialization. What's Theoden's point? Maybe it's time to reconnect with these legends and try to figure out and understand some of their meaning so that as we pass them on in his world to the children understand them. And now the songs have come down among us out of strange places and walk visible under the sun. Well, who? It's not just the Ents that are walking now visible under the sun. I mean, there's Aragorn right by him. Gandalf, you should be glad, Theoden King, for not only the little life of men, not only the little life of men is now endangered, but the life also of those things which you have deemed the matter of legend. You are not without allies, even if you know them not. That is, there's a lot of forces at work here that are on your side. Okay? So, they ride to Isengard, and we get to 556. 747. What has happened to the circle of Isengard? It used to be ringed by stone walls. They're destroyed. They're slabs now, tipped over like earthquakes have hit. Kind of. And they see, bottom of 556, amid all the wreck of Isengard, the strangest sight. A small, smoke-breathing figure, became suddenly aware of them as they sat there silent on the edge of the mist. He springs to his feet. A young man he looks, or like one, more like half a man. Brown curly hair, travel-stained cloak. He bows low. Welcome, my lords. We are the door wardens. Meriadoc, son of Saradoc is my name, my companion. And he kicks, Pippin. Peregrine, son of Paladin of the House of Took. This the rejoining of these two with these three. Actually, I completely, because I didn't add back in over here, and I should have, because Gandalf comes back. So, Gandalf and Theoden go off, and we get Flotsam and Jetsam, where Merry and Pippin explain what happened to them, how they, talked with Treebeard and everything, how they helped, not really, but, with the siege of Isengard. Chapter 10, Voice of Saruman. Gandalf says, first page, time to go talk to Saruman. I must pay him a farewell visit. Okay, he says, it's dangerous. If you want to come, you can come. Gimli says, I want to come. I want to see if he really does look like you. Gandalf, and how will you know that? Because if he wants to look like me, he will look like me to you. Pippin, what's the danger? Will he shoot at us, pour fire out of the windows? Can he put a spell on us? Yeah, most likely the latter. Okay? Beware of his voice. So, they go down to the foot of the stairs, and Gandalf says, I will go up. Now, the tower looks something like that. Got a top, battlement kind of thing up here, but it's got a stairway that goes up, and then there's a platform. All right? And there's another platform up here. There's a door here. There's another platform up here. So somebody can stand up here and talk down to people down here. So they start to go up. Gandalf says, I'm going up. I've been in Orthanc, page 577. Know my peril. Theoden says, I'm going up too. I don't fear any peril. Eomer's going to come. Why? Because he's king after me. All right. Gandalf says, Aragorn's coming. And Gimli says, Legolas might want to come, Okay. So the riders all stay down, and Merry and Pippin stay down. So Gandalf goes up, bangs on the door, cries out, Saruman, come forth. We hear a voice. Who is it? What do you want? It's Wormtongue. Gandalf tells him, fetch your master. And the next voice they hear is low and melodious. It's very sound and enchantment. And then they see a body appear with it, up here. And we're told, bottom of 578, well, why must you disturb my rest? Will you give me no peace at all by night or day? Its tone was that of a kindly heart aggrieved by injuries. And they look up. For they had heard no sound of his coming, and they see this figure standing there. And Gimli goes, like it yet unlike it. It looks like Gandalf, but it also doesn't look like him. And the voice addresses them and says, you, Gandalf, I know. You, Theoden, I know. And he asks Theoden, will you not be a friend to me, blah, blah, blah. I alone can aid you now. Theoden opens his mouth to speak, but doesn't. And Gimli speaks. 579. The words of this wizard stand on their heads. In the language of Orthanc, help means ruin. Saving means slain, that is plain. We do not come here to beg. What does he mean? In the words of this wizard, help means ruin. Saving means slaying. What's he saying? What's his name? Saruman is doing. Lying. But not literally. He's using slippery language. He's changing meanings of words. Saruman, peace! And for a moment, voice is less suave. Light flickers in his eyes. I do not speak to you yet, Gimli. glowing sun. Far. How did he know Gimli? Did Wormtongue run and keep a note of everybody? Or is it because he's Saruman and he knows some things? Far away is your home, small concern of yours, etc., etc. And then he speaks again to Theoden. So he makes a second appeal. He's going to make 3. What have you to say, Theoden King? Will you have peace with me and all the aid that my knowledge founded in long years can bring? Shall we make our counsels together, blah, blah, blah? Theoden doesn't answer. Eomer does. Now we feel the peril that we were warned of. Have we ridden forth to victory only to stand at last amazed by an old liar with honey on his forked tongue? So would the trapped wolf speak to the hounds if he could. And what ace does Eomer pull out? Because Eomer's thinking maybe this stuff about caged lion language doesn't work. Remember Theodred at the fords. Theodred, that's Theoden's son. In the grave of Hama in Helm's Deep. Well, what did the orcs do to Hama? They hacked him into pieces. There's an idea that runs throughout. You treat the dead with honor, even if they're your enemy. You treat them with honor. You don't do, Mogadishu in 1993. You don't drag them through the city. You don't hang them from the bridge over the Euphrates, like what happened to 4 Blackwater guys during the second Gulf War. Okay? If we speak of poisoned tongues, what shall we say of yours, young serpent? Oh, sorry. Calm, peace. But come, Eomer, Eamon's son, to every man his part. Valor is yours, and you win high honor. Slay whom your Lord names as enemies, and be content. In other words, be a gun. You're the Iron Giant. Kill whom your Lord tells you to kill. But my Lord of Rohan, am I to be called a murderer because valiant men have fallen in battle? Notice what he's just done. Eomer says he's a murderer because of what happened to Theodred. Theodred was protecting women and children and was attacked. This was a non-military installation, if you want to look at it that way. They were attacked and murdered. This was a non-war event. Okay? And what does Saruman do? He equalizes. He makes a moral equivalence between what he did against unarmed women and children and what happens in war between opposing armies. If I'm to be called a murderer, what about the house of Eorl? If you go to war needlessly, men will be slain. So, I say again, shall we have peace and friendship, you and I? It's ours to command. We can have peace. He doesn't use the words because I think it was too fresh, but it's almost like Tolkien wants to say, in our time. And then we will have peace. And the writers down below, yay, we can go back home. We will have peace. Yes, we will have peace. When you and all your works have perished, and they're going like, no, that's not what to say. And then he just unloads. You could tell this has been eating Theoden up. Even if your war on me was just, Tolkien introduces, by using that very phrase, just, he introduces the Catholic idea of just war and just war theory. It has to meet certain preconditions, which as it was not. Even so, what will you say of your torches in Westfold and the children that lie dead there? It's never just in just war to kill children. Period. No. We will have peace when you hang from a gibbet at your window for the sport of your own crows. Then I will have peace with you and Orthanc. And then Saruman just, all pretense of being smooth drops. And he tells Theoden what he really thinks about him. Dotard, what is the house of a herald but a thatched barn where brigands drink in the reek, their brats roll on the floor among the dogs? Well, that's a pretty accurate description, probably, of what Menacil was really like. Because that's an accurate description of an Anglo-Saxon or Germanic hall, even one of a king. They would even have cows and pigs, sometimes in the halls with them. So Saruman pulls out his ace. So he's not going to get peace with Theoden, but that's okay. He's a peon. He's nothing. Gandalf. Come on, Gandalf. I grieve for you. I mean, look at the company you keep. It's riffraff. Gandalf's like, huh? What do you want to tell me, or what do you want to untell me? Unsay? No. Our friendship, it would profit us both. Much we can still accomplish together to heal the disorders of the world. Blah, 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 blah. Will you not consult with me? Will you not come up? And what happens? So great was the power that Saruman exerted in this last effort, that none that stood within hearing were unmoved. Now, if we take that literally, none that stood within hearing includes whom? Gandalf, Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, all of them. They heard the gentle remonstrance, and then what happens? Gandalf laughs. Just poof, the spell was broken. He says, Saruman, you missed your path in life. You should have been the king's jester. Skip a bit. Understand one another? I am beyond your comprehension. Ooh. I am so far above you, you can't even look at the underside of my feet, But you, I understand now all too well. So he asked Saruman, won't you come down? Okay? Come on down. Leave Orthanc for a while. He says, no. The treacherous are ever distrustful, bottom of 582. But you need not fear for your skin. I do not wish to kill you or hurt you, as you would know if you really understood me. Why? Why does Gandalf not want to kill him or hurt him? Does he have reason to want to kill him or hurt him? Well, maybe not kill him, but, zapping him every now and then. A little Cruciatus curse every now and then doesn't hurt anybody. It does, but it's not lasting. It's not like real torture. So why does Gandalf say that? He's going to tell us later on. It's not in his command. He has no authority per se, no power over Saruman to do that. He says, I do have the power to protect you. I'm giving you a last chance. You can leave Orthanc free if you choose. Free to do what? Whatever he wants. If he wants to go and ally himself with Sauron, there are some conditions. Well, I don't really think you want to go to Sauron because he's going to know you tried to cheat him. But, if you want to go to Mordor, have at it. First, you turn over the key of Orthanc and your staff. Okay? Saruman says, yeah, you'll only be happy when you have all the staffs of the wizards. Says, no, not for me. Turns around, goes inside. He leaves. And Gandalf calls back, come back, Saruman, in a commanding voice. And he kind of went, he pulled back. I did not give you leave to go. Okay, pause for a moment, freeze frame that. Saruman's like this. What's going through his mind?
Oh, crap.
Oh, Why?
Because
This isn't Gandalf the Grey who I imprisoned earlier. He doesn't know Gandalf is now Gandalf the White. You have become a fool, Saruman, and yet pitiable. Notice, even if someone is a pool, you can pity them. is a fool, you can pity him. It's getting late. I do the same thing in my 8 o'clock classes. You might still have turned away from folly and evil and been of service, but you choose to stay and gnaw the ends of your old plots. Notice, you could have turned away. Kind of like what he said about Gollum. There's still a chance for Gollum's cure. Gandalf is saying, you could have still been cured. It's okay to stay, but you're not going to come out easily again. Why? I'm Gandalf the White, who has returned, and he makes it clear, from death. You have no color. Oh, he does have power and authority, doesn't he? You have no color. That means you're no longer a wizard. You are no longer an Astari. Doesn't mean he's no longer a Maya, I think. Unless maybe one of the conditions of them becoming incarnated in human form gives them this power. And I cast you from the order and from the council. So he's no longer a member of the White Council. That's Gandalf, Saruman, Elrond, Galadriel, Celebrimbor, I think. So you're not that, and you're not one of the Astari, one of the wizards anymore. He raises his hand. Saruman, your staff is broken. He's holding his staff. Boom, it shatters. There's a crack. Go. And Saruman is kind of flung backwards. Now, what do you think Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli and the others are thinking?
Oh, crap.
Ixnay, don't piss off Gandalf. And somebody throws a glowing ball. And Pippin runs off and gathers it. Okay? 585. Pippin says, and what if Sauron does not conquer? What will you do to him? Meaning Saruman. I? Nothing. I will do nothing to him. I do not wish for mastery. What will become of him? Don't say. Or I don't know. I grieve that so much that was good now festers in the tower. Still for us things have not gone badly. Okay. So, chapter 11, the Palantir. The ball that was thrown is a Palantir, and because Pippin touched it, he's got itchy fingers. So Gandalf sleeps with this thing, and Pippin goes and gets a rock and takes it, and he sees Sauron. 592 and following. So Gandalf looks in his eyes and says, you know, you've not betrayed us, etc., etc. It's probably good that you actually did, because now I know exactly what you saw. Okay. And he tells Pippin, bottom of 593, 594. You have taken no harm, there is no lie in your eyes as I feared, but he did not speak long with you. A fool, but an honest fool you remain. Wiser ones might have done worse. You have been saved, and all your friends too, mainly by good fortune, as it is called. You cannot count on it a second time. Okay? So Gandalf gives the Palantir to Aragorn. Bottom of that page, 594. He says, receive it, Lord, in earnest of other things that shall be given back, that is, when you are king. But don't be, don't use it hastily. And Aragorn's like, dude, I'm 87 years old. When have I been hasty in all my life that you know me? Never, but don't start now. Okay? So, Gandalf and Pippin leave. Why?
Sauron thinks he has the.
Is it to get Pippin away from the ball?
It's to get Pippin away from the Palantir. Sauron thinks whoever had the Palantir has the Hobbit, the one with the ring. So he's going to start sending Nazgûl. So Gandalf wants to get him away. He also, because Pippin's going to have itchy fingers as long as he is near this thing. So, 597, he explains what they are, who might have made them. Feanor, a name that comes in the Silmarillion. Okay. And they talk on their way to Minas Tirith. We finish the first half. We open the second half. Chapter 1 of Book 4, The Taming of Smeagol. Oh, that's right. Frodo and Sam are still in the novel. And we pick up with Frodo and Sam almost immediately where we left off with them. And very quickly, they capture Gollum. They see Gollum coming down the cliffside. Sam kind of jumps him. Gollum jumps him, bites him on the neck. Sam throws a elvish rope around him. And Gollum, screams bloody murder. 6:14, 6:15. Frodo says, "Let go, Gollum. This is Sting. You've seen it before once upon a time. Let go or you'll feel it this time." And Gollum collapses. "Just don't let the British bitches. No, they won't do anything nice little hobbits. We didn't mean no harm," but they jumps on us like cats on poor mice. They did precious and so lonely, Gollum. Sam, what's to be done with it? Not him. Why Sam call Gollum it?
He doesn't want to humanize it.
He doesn't want to hobbitize it. Yeah, he's dehobbitizing Gollum. Okay? Let's tie it up. Oh, but that would kill us. Kill us, cruel little hobbits is ties up in the cold hard lands. Frodo, nope, if we kill him, we got to kill him outright. Gollum's like, not going my way. This is not what I mean. He's done us no harm. Sam's going like, yeah, easy for you to say. You didn't get bit, Anyway, he meant to. And he means to. I'll warn. He meant to do us harm, and he still means to. What thought is going through Sam's mind that the Bush administration, the second one, kind of codified as an actual rule of war? Preemptive action. If we think somebody's going to do something, we will do something first. That had never been United States policy before. After 9/11, that became United States kind of policy.
Well, I mean, it's never been U.S. policy in that realm before. It was
Yeah.
U.S. policy in the New Salem witch trials of the U.S. government. Back
Yeah, but that was
when this rule was written.
even before there was a U.S. government,
No. I meant in what the Crucible was written about.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I just meant there wasn't a U.S. government. That's the Massachusetts Bay Colony government. So, Frodo thinks, when Frodo says, yeah, I dare say he deserves death, and it rings his memory. But what he means to do is another matter. What a pity Bilbo did not stab that wild creature when he had the chance. Pity was pity. Pity that stayed his hand. Pity and mercy not to strike without need. I do not feel any pity for Gollum. He deserves death. I dare say he does. Many that live deserve death. Some that die that deserve life. Can you give that to them? Notice the part that Frodo doesn't think of or doesn't remember. You have not seen him. No, and I don't want to. And then, very well, but still I am afraid. And yet, as you see, I will not touch the creature, for now that I see him, I do pity him. Is it just pity because he sees what Gollum is like? Or is there more to it? I mean, that's a huge part of it.
He knows what's affecting him.
Bingo. Frodo sees Gollum, he's like, that could be me.
I feel you, bro.
Yeah, I feel you. In another 600 years, I feel you, So, Gollum is tamed how?
Through like a promise.
He makes a promise. On what? Or what kind of promise?
Lead them to the Black Gate.
A vow? What kind of vow? Because when you swear a vow, you swear by something.
Or like service to Frodo.
Okay.
Doesn't he swear by his precious?
He swears by the precious. Top of 618. We will swear to do what he wants. Yes, yes. It hurts us. Frodo, swear? What do you mean swear? Smeagol. And notice Gollum suddenly, clearly opens his eyes wide, says, Smeagol, we swear on the precious. He doesn't say Gollum. He doesn't say we. He gives his name. Frodo. What the? How dare you? One ring to rule them all, and in the darkness bind them? You're going to swear by that? It'll keep you to it. On the precious, on the precious. What would you swear? Be very, very good. Really? That's like a 3-year-old's promise. Oh, be very, very good, Mommy. Really? Okay. He says, swear never to let him have it. Notice what he doesn't swear. I will always and ever be faithful to you, Frodo, son of Drogo, heir of Bilbo, of number 4, Bag Inn, Hobbiton, the Shire, the West, Arda, the universe. Okay? Frodo says, not on it. You're not going to see it. It's before you. So speak your promise. We promise is yes, I promise. I will serve the master of the precious. Frodo failed negotiation 101. Master of the precious.
Stop.
Well,
It could be whoever has
if
it.
Gollum becomes master of the precious, then he will serve himself. He's like, okay, take it off, Sam. That's good enough. So we get the passage of the marshes. Page 625. We're going to skip a bit. We're told, middle of the page, they were now wholly in the hands of Gollum. In other words, without Gollum, they'd be lost. They did not know, could not guess in that misty light. They were, in fact, only just within the northern borders of the marshes, main expanse of which lay south of them. The field of Daggerlad, the field of the ancient battle before the gates of Mordor. Okay? This is the field of the battle that Elrond was talking about. When Elrond and Isildur went up the flanks of Mordor, this battle was going on here while they were in Mordor. Okay? And Frodo asks, how do we shape our course now, Smeagol? How do we shape our course? How do we make our path? Because we're going to hear this language about finding the path, making one's way several times. And Tolkien's kind of implying it's not predestined. There is no fate. It's little actions that come and go. He says, do we have to cross these evil-smelling fens? He says, no, not if you want to reach the dark mountains and go see them very quick. So they start going through, and they see these lights and these pools in the marshes. And there's faces in them. Bottom of 627. Sam trips, falls. His face almost goes into the water. For a moment, the water below him looked like some window glazed with grimy glass through which he was peering. Wrenching his hands out of the bog, he sprang back with a cry. There were dead things, dead faces in the water, dead faces. Gollum. The dead marshes, yes, that is their name. You should not look in when the candles are lit. Who are they? Asked Sam. Frodo, I don't know, but I've seen them too. Rotting, foul, etc. Gollum, oh, dead, all right. Ills and men and orcs, the dead marshes. They told him when Smeagol was young about a great battle. When I was young, before the precious came, it was a great battle. Tall men with long swords, terrible elves, orcs is shrieking. They fought on the plain. Sam, but that was ages ago. Who knows? Gollum doesn't know. Cannot reach him, cannot touch him. Tried once, yes, precious. I tried once. Gollum was hungry. He tried to take one of the faces up. Okay? This isn't something Tolkien just makes up out of his imagination. We have accounts from the First World War in the Battle of the Somme in France of people, soldiers, going from one line of trenches to another and going through essentially mud pits and seeing decapitated heads, multiple places. And multiple writers talk about it because of the sheer number of shells being fired. Okay? So this might be an example, a personal example of Tolkien's experience of warfare. Okay? So they get across, and where does Gollum lead them? Where did they ask him to lead them? Take us to the Black Gate. He goes, okay, we'll do. They get to the Black Gate, and what do they realize?
Can't go through there.
Can't get in through there. But before they get to the actual gate, look at 632 and 633. They're in the slag pits outside Mordor, and the Black Gate's over there. And they've fallen asleep. And Sam wakes up, bottom of 632, and he realizes Frodo has slid down a little bit of a hillside, down into this pit. And Gollum's near him. And Sam overhears this conversation, but it's not Frodo and Gollum. He thinks at first that Gollum's trying to rouse Frodo, but he realizes he's not. He hears two voices, and he can see Gollum. And at one voice, his eyes have the green glint, and at the other voice, his eyes go pale. They lose the green glint. Smeagol promised, yes, he promised to save our precious, not to let him have it, never. But it's going to him near and near. I don't know, I can't help it, Master. Two voices, two different personas. And what does Sam hear? Who's the she? Sam doesn't ask. But what he sees here is there's a tension. There's a conflict in Gollum. / with Smeagol. Describe the two personalities. Gollum, describe Gollum. Consumed by the ring. Evil. Describe Smeagol. Wanting to keep his promise. There's still a tincture of good in Smeagol. We're going to see that tincture wiped out in, probably time. Not too long from now. Okay? So, they go to the Black Gate, chapter 3, the Black Gate is closed. And Gollum says there is another way. Why didn't you tell us? Which you didn't ask, the famous, So, they make their way farther south. Chapter 4 of Herbs and Stewed Rabbit. What does Sam notice about Frodo, which causes him to want to make Frodo a stew?
He's starting to get a little down.
He's getting a little down. What else? He's getting thin.
It's getting wrinkly.
Okay.
He knows he doesn't sleep.
Hasn't slept. Hasn't had a good meal in a while. So he cooks a stew. He has Gollum go catch some rabbits. And because he starts a fire, they get captured. Okay, we're going to skip a bit. So they're captured by Faramir and his troops, the Rangers of Ithilien. And let's skip a bit. 657-58. Frodo kind of says, do you know about Boromir? And they say yes. You know about the message? And they say yes. And they don't say much more. 660, 661, they get attacked. There's an ambush, essentially. And Sam has his first experience of human war. Bottom of 660. He sees a man, one of the enemies, a green-clad warrior, a swarthy man in red running down the slope. Arrows thick in the air. Suddenly, straight over the rim of their sheltering bank, a man fell, crashing through the slender trees, nearly on top of them. He came to rest in the fern a few feet away, face downward, green arrow feathers sticking from his neck, below a golden collar. His scarlet robes were tattered, his corselet of overlapping brazen plates rent and hewn. His black plaits of hair, braided with gold, were drenched with blood. Notice the descriptive detail. Tolkien wants us to really see this person. His brown hand still clutched the hilt of a broken sword. It was Sam's first view of a battle of men against men, and he did not like it much. He was glad he could not see the dead face. He wondered what the man's name was and where he came from. Why? This is showing us Sam's what? his humanity. I know he's a hobbit. His humanity. He wondered what the man's name was and where he came from, and if he was really evil of heart, or what lies or threats had led him on the long march from his home. What is Sam doing that he shouldn't be doing?
He's feeling sorry for him.
He's feeling sorry for him. He's empathizing with him. And if he would not really rather have stayed there in peace. In other words,
He's thinking of the Shire.
he's thinking of the Shire possibly, but he might also be thinking, maybe this guy really isn't an enemy. Only an enemy and deserves death. All in a flash of thought which is quickly driven from his mind. For just as Mablung stepped towards the fallen body, there was a new noise, and elephants come in. Okay? So, the window on the west. They talk about the poem, the rhyme that Boromir brought north. Okay? And 664, Frodo talks about Boromir. And Faramir says in the middle of the page, you say Boromir will tell all when he comes. When he comes, you say, were you a friend of Boromir? And Frodo's thinking, well, see, that we didn't really part on friendly terms. But yeah, I was his friend. So you'd be surprised. You would grieve to learn Boromir was dead. I would grieve indeed. What? Dead? Are you now trying to snare me with, I would not even snare an orc with a falsehood. Well, how did he die? How do you know he's dead? And he's like, I thought you would tell me. I mean, if you were such good friends with him. Frodo's like, I never said I was good friends with him. I just said, okay. He was alive when I last saw him. So Frodo's thinking what?
It's his
If Boromir's dead,
Everybody's dead.
they're all dead. Okay. And Faramir finally, page 665, says, by the way, Boromir was my brother. Right? They talk about 667 going through Lothlorien, and he's like, oh man, I'd love to go there. You know. Top of 668. When Faramir talks about seeing the vision and then finding Boromir in the water with his horn and everything, Frodo says, I did not know of it. The day when you heard it blowing, this top of 668, if your reckoning is true, was the day when we parted, when I and my servant left the company. And now your tale fills me with dread, for if Boromir was then in peril, then probably all my companions perished too. And they were my kindred and my friends. And listen to what he says here. Will you not put aside your doubt of me and let me go? I am weary and full of grief and afraid. I have a deed to do or to attempt before I too am slain. What kind of mindset is that? Is that the attitude you want to have before the big game?
Nope.
No. Go back, Faramir, valiant captain of Gondor. Defend your city while you may, and let me go where my doom takes me. He's using doom in the exact same sense Boromir used doom to talk about the doom coming to Minas Tirith. Why is Frodo such a Debbie Downer?
I mean, he has evil strapped to his neck.
Yes,
He's got Satan around his neck, essentially. That's exactly it. Okay? So they break off the conversation because others are around. And 669 and following, Faramir says, it's kind of what I expected. Your problem was with Boromir alone. Okay? They start to talk about Gandalf. Frodo says, yeah, he's dead too. Bottom of 671. Faramir tells Frodo, because they've mentioned Isildur's Bane, fear no more. I would not take this thing if it lay by the highway. Not where Minas Tirith falling in ruin and I alone could save her. So, that is, thus, using the weapon of the Dark Lord for her good and my glory. No, I don't wish for such victories, or for such triumph. That's exactly what Boromir was willing to do. Faramir is showing here what? I am not my brother. I am the exact opposite of my brother. And yet, Peter Jackson completely changes that. He has Faramir attempt to take Frodo, once he discovers Frodo has the ring, attempt to take Frodo back to his father, which is exactly what his father would want, which is exactly what Boromir kind of would do. Okay? So, skip a bit more. They keep talking and pick up with 680 and 681. Talking a little bit about Lothlorien and such. And Sam starts to say something about Boromir, and he stops. Faramir goes, no, you were going to say, now Boromir. And Sam blurts out about the enemy's ring. And Frodo's like, Sam. And Sam says, now look here, sir. Don't you go taking advantage of the bottom of 680. Don't go taking advantage of my master, because a servant's no better than a fool. He's spoken very handsomely all along. Handsome is as handsome does. Now's a chance to show your quality. And Faramir's like, I've got Sauron's one ring of power. And you're a midget. Frodo and Sam sprang from their stools and set themselves side by side with their backs to the wall, fumbling for their sword hilts. Ooh, 2 midgets. Alas for Boromir, how you have increased my sorrow, top of 681. You 2 strange wanderers from a far country, bearing the peril of men, but you are less judges of men than I of halflings. We are truth speakers, we men of Gondor. We both seldom and then perform, or die in the attempt. That's another passage, essentially, from the Old English poem, The Wanderer. Don't make any boast you can't perform. Not if I found it on the highway would I take it, I said. Even if I were such a man as to desire this thing, that vow would hold me to it. He says, but I'm not such a man. I don't want it. I know there are perils from which a man must flee. Okay? Chapter 6, Forbidden Pool. They capture Gollum. Notice how Faramir looks in Gollum's eyes and says, there's no immediate evil plan, but there are hidden doors back there. And Gollum leads them then to the crossroads, which we're going to skip until we get to almost the end, page 700. Gollum leaves them momentarily, and Frodo and Sam are a little, scared that he's up to his old tricks. Just before the break in the page on page 700. There's thunder and stuff, and Frodo says, I'm afraid our journey is drawing to an end. He doesn't mean a complete and happy conclusion and they all lived happily ever after. Sam, maybe, but where there's life, there's hope. Okay? Now turn to the last page. They get to the actual crossroads. So the crossroads head north, south, east, and west. East heads into Mordor. You go up Cirith Ungol. West heads towards the sea. And at the crossroads had been this huge stone carving of a king. The carving's been knocked over, and the king's head's been chopped off. And it's now lying on the ground, and a vine with flowers has wound around its crown. And we're told, bottom of 702, suddenly, caught by the level beams, that is, of the sun, Frodo saw the old king's head. It was lying rolled away by the roadside. He says, look, Sam, look. The king has got a crown again. Eyes were hollow, carven beard was broken, but around the high stern forehead there's a coronal, that is a crown of silver and gold, trailing plant with flowers. And the sun shines. And Frodo says, they cannot conquer forever. Who's they? Evil. Darkness. This is another little mini eucatastrophe. And then night falls. Stairs of Cirith Ungol. So they march. They march and march and climb and climb and climb. Pick up with 711. Gollum leaves after they've been climbing. And they're thirsty, right in the middle. Faramir said, don't drink any water in the Vale of Morgul. Frodo says, he actually said no water flowing out of Inland Morgul. We're not in that valley now. If we came on a spring, it would be flowing into the valley, not out of it. Frodo's saying, I'm thirsty. If I come upon water, I'm going to drink it. Sam, I still wouldn't trust it. Hey, I don't like this place. There's something queer about it. Frodo, I don't like anything here. Step or stone, breath or bone, air, earth, air, and water all seem accursed. But so our path is laid. Notice, there's no finding their path now. This is their destiny. Sam, you're right, Frodo. And we shouldn't be here at all if we'd known more about it before we started. That is, back last summer, if we'd known we were going to be right here at this moment in time, hell no, I wouldn't have come along. And you wouldn't have gone either. But I suppose it's often that way. You know, the brave things in the old tales and songs, Mr. Frodo, adventures as I used to call them. What is Sam saying about themselves? We're on an adventure. We are in part of a brave tale or song. I used to think that they were things the wonderful folk of the stories went out and looked for, like the Arthurian tales, like Beowulf. That they were things the heroes, because they were bored, were going out and trying to find to do. Because they wanted them, because they were exciting and life was a bit dull, a kind of a sport, as you might say. But that's not the way of it with the tales that really mattered, or the ones that stay in the mind. What kind of tales is he talking about? These kind. Folk seem to have been just landed in them usually. Their paths were laid that way, as you put it. In other words, they woke up one morning and they found out they were in a quote-unquote heroic tale. Why? Because that morning was June 6, 1944, and they were on an amphibious landing craft. Or that morning was September 11, 2001, and they were firefighters in New York City. Or that morning was, name it. They just land in them. But I expect they had lots of chances, like us, of turning back. Only they didn't. Those 18 and 19-year-olds who scaled the cliffs of Omaha Beach and such. Those firefighters, people who do things every day that don't get acknowledged. They didn't turn back. They kept on going. The kids in Parkland, that one kid who ran to the door and tried to stop the shooter, saving like 20 kids behind him, and he took 5 bullets. And if they had turned back, what? We should know. Why? Because they'd have been forgotten. We hear about those, that is, the good tales, the good stories, Sam says. We hear about those as just went on, and not all to a good end. I mean, almost every school shooting in the United States in the last 20 years, I could pull up articles and pull out names of people who did not come to a quote-unquote good end. It was a good end because they died trying to save somebody else, but it wasn't a good end in that they went on living. Not all to a good end, mind you. At least not to what folk inside a story and not outside it call a good end. So Sam is telling us, here's what he means by a story with a good ending, a happy ending. Coming home and finding things all right. Though not quite the same, like old Mr. Bilbo. Well, we could jump to the very end. I mean, the literal last page of the novel. Because That's what Sam gets. Sam gets that good ending. Nobody else does. Merry and Pippin kind of do. Frodo doesn't. Bilbo doesn't. But those aren't always the best tales to hear, though they may be the best tales to get landed in. I wonder what sort of a tale we've fallen into. Okay, so what's Sam just been doing?
Thinking.
Pretty deep thinking. It's quote unquote literary criticism. He's telling you about how stories mean and what they mean and what makes a story good, etc., etc. But then he immediately says, and we're in a story. Why? Because every life's a story. Shakespeare famously puts in, which one is it? As You Like It. All the world's a stage, and everybody a bit player. So, what kind of story are we in, Frodo? I wonder, but I don't know. And that's the way of a real tale. Take anyone you're fond of. You may know or guess what kind of a tale it is, happy ending or sad ending, but the people in it don't know, and you don't want them to. Why? What are they going to do if they know? Change. They're going to try and change the ending somehow. No, of course not. Beren now. Yeah, Beren. He never thought he was going to get that Silmaril from the Iron Crown and Thangorodrim. When this book came out, people were like, we want to hear more about Beren. Came out in 55. Silmarillion wasn't published until 1977. 4 years after Tolkien's death. Why? Because he kept tinkering with it. He could never complete something. 17 years for this. And yet he died, and yet he did. That is, he got the Silmaril. That was a worse place, blacker danger than ours. Boy, that was bad stuff. But that's a long tale, of course. Goes on past the happiness, into grief, and beyond it. Beren dies. He kind of is allowed to come back. He and Luthien get married. They have children. ... And the Silmaril went on and came to Eärendil and the Starglass. We're in the same story. We're in the tale of Beren and Luthien. It's just a lot of chapters later. Don't the great tales never end? Frodo, no, they never end as tales. People in them come and go when their parts ended. Okay? So they start to talk some more. Sam says, let's get some sleep. And Sam wonders, I wonder what Gollum is in this tale. I wonder what he thinks he is. Why, even Gollum might be good in a tale, top of 713. Better than he is to have around anyways. And he used to like tales himself once, by his own account. I wonder if he thinks he's the hero of the villain. And he calls Gollum. And he's not around. Okay? So they talk some more about Gollum. And Frodo says at the very bottom of the page, I don't think he's got just one plain scheme in his muddled head. I think he really is, in part, trying to save the precious from the enemy as long as he can. For that would be the last disaster for himself, too, if the enemy got it. And in the other part, he's just biding his time and waiting on chance. Slinker and stinker, Sam says. So they fall asleep. And look at what happens. Gollum comes back hours later, crawling and creeping down the path out of the gloom, and he sees Frodo and Sam. Sam, propped up against the stone, head drooping to the side. Frodo lying by his side with his head in Sam's lap. Sam has one hand on Frodo's forehead and the other hand on his chest. Why? Because if he moves, I'm going to know. This is his protection. Peace was in both their faces. Gollum looked at them. Strange expression passed over his lean, hungry face. The gleam faded from his eyes, indicating Smeagol. And they went dim and gray, old and tired. We're seeing Gollum how? This is the narrator's perspective. This is the outside view. This isn't Frodo's or Sam's. How is Gollum being portrayed here? As a 600-year-old hobbit. It's Smeagol. A spasm of pain seemed to twist him, and he turned away. He looks back up the path from where he came, shaking his head. Shaking your head in Western cultures always implies what? It's doubt. It's no. It's negative. Nodding always means yes, good. He doesn't look up the path and go, yeah, I'm going to kill the bastards. And he comes back and slowly puts out a trembling hand, cautiously touches Frodo's knee, but almost the touch was a caress. Why Frodo's knee? Why not his foot? Why not his hand? Why not his elbow? Why not his shoulder? Why not his stomach? Why not his face? Why his knee? It's specific. You know?
Asking for forgiveness.
Close. It's really close. In classical literature and in, I think it's an Indo-European motif, actually. When you are seeking either forgiveness or you are supplicating someone. You are asking for their mercy. What you do is you go up and you either, or you're seeking their blessing. One of those three. You go up and you either put your hands on their knees or you clasp their knees and put your head on their knees. Okay? He reaches out and touches the knee. And I think by doing that, he might be doing any of those three, but he's also old AT&T commercial. Reach out and touch someone. He's connecting in a very real, tangible, physical way. One hobbit to another hobbit. Notice, the touch is almost a caress. That implies not just touching, but a slight movement, like petting. For a fleeting moment, could one of the sleepers have seen him, they would have thought that they beheld an old, weary hobbit, shrunken by the years that had carried him far beyond his time, beyond friends and kin, and the fields and streams of youth, an old, starved, pitiable thing. And what happens? Frodo stirs, and because Frodo stirs, Sam immediately wakes up, and what's he think? He sees Gollum, not Smeagol, Gollum with his hand on Frodo's knee, pawing at Master, as he thought. It says, "Hey you, what are you up to?" "Nothing, nothing," said Gollum softly. "Nice, Master." "I dare say. Where have you been to? Sneaking off and sneaking back, you old villain." Gollum withdrew himself. He pulls back. He pulls inward. And the green glint flickered under his heavy lids. In other words, you son of a... That is the death, I think, of Smeagol. Or it is the good is stamped out. And it's stamped out by Sam. Almost spider-like he looked now. Beautiful foreshadowing. Sneaking. Hobbits always so polite, yes. Oh, nice hobbit. Smeagol brings him up secret ways that nobody else can find. Courteous, thirsty, yes, thirsty. He guides him, searches for past. And they say, sneak. Very nice friends. Oh, yes, my precious, very nice. Sam felt a bit remorseful, though not more trustful. Okay? And what happens? Shelob's lair happens. They get attacked. Before they do, Gollum leaves. Sam realizes it's a trap. Page 720. He remembers Galadriel's gift to Frodo, the glass with the light. They pull it out. Frodo does. Shines a light. And we get a long description kind of Shelob. Okay. They cut through the rope, the webbing, and run off. And Shelob gets Frodo when Gollum jumps Sam, page 726. Gollum fights Sam off. He goes after Frodo. Chapter 10. Choices of Master Samwise. We can almost get through this. And what does he see? After he kicks Gollum off, he goes and he gets over Frodo as, Shelob is standing over him like this. He's already blinded one eye, or Frodo did. I can't remember which one. He takes Sting, which is lying beside Frodo, and Shelob thinks, well, I'm just going to squish the little bugger. She's massive. Like, size of this room massive. This is a stinking big spider, okay? And she's just going to right down on top of it. He just holds up Sting. She comes down more than once, realizes, not good, she scuttles off. Chapter 10. Frodo was lying face upward on the ground, and the monster was bending over him. So, he essentially kills her. She doesn't actually die. And gets her off and such. And 7:30, she slinks away. And Sam says, Mr. Frodo, don't leave me here alone. It's your Sam calling. Don't go where I can't follow. Wake up, Mr. Frodo. Oh, wake up, Mr. Frodo. Wake up, Mr. Frodo. Well, but where has Sam seen this before? In the Mirror of Galadriel. He saw Frodo all bound lying in a cave. And black despair came down on him. He passes out. And when he comes to, page 731, what shall I do? What shall I do? Did I come all this way with him for nothing? And then he realizes, nope, I have something to do before the end, back at the chapter of the Mirror of Galadriel. I must see to it through, sir, if you understand. What can I do? The burden was given to Frodo. Well, no, it wasn't actually. Frodo accepted the burden. And the members of the fellowship were given to ensure that the quest was achieved. And crap, I'm the last member of the fellowship. So he takes the sword. He takes the file of Galadriel. It's not going to do Frodo any good now. 732. What? Me? Alone? Go to the crack of doom? Me? Take the ring? Okay. So he goes. And he puts on the ring, 734. And the world changed. He hears stone, he hears water, he hears orcs, he hears orcs. 735 and following. And we're going to skip all the talk by the orcs, except when we get to page 740. What do we discover?
Frodo's not dead.
Frodo's not dead. He's only mostly dead. She binds him with cords when she's after meat. She doesn't eat dead meat or suck cold blood. This fellow isn't dead. It sounds like, oh no. And Sam runs to try to catch up to them. The doors are closed. And now we have to wait 6 months to find out what happens. Okay, questions? We don't have to wait 6 months. You just have a week. All right, we'll stop there. So I probably will have a quiz next week. I don't know what it'll be over. Two Towers and Return of the King probably. Still probably only 10 questions. And I'll hand out the exam next week.